pretty sure you heard the story we're about to talk about today, where there's a group of Roman Catholic priests. They pledged to pay $100 million in reparations to black descendants of those enslaved over the next 3 to 5 years. Now, I say the Jesuit Conference of Canada and the United States have committed to raising the funds and donating them to the Foundation for Slave Descendants. So they were talking about the Jesuits are members of the Society of Jesus. They say a worldwide order of more than 16,000, Roman Catholic priests. It says the Catholic Church largest male religious order. Now it says the Jesuit Conference is the administrative arm of the 5 Jesuit provinces in the U.S. and Canada. Now they were saying that the Catholic Church, of course, is trying to make an atonement for slavery. They say trade in the Catholic Church engaged for more than 100 years. And if anybody know about slavery, know the white supremacists went to the Catholic Church to bless their ships and to bless their capture and taking away of African people into slavery. And they said the Jesuits used, the proceeds from forced labor and slavery. They said to support clergy and bankroll churches and schools. Okay. So they took the labor of African slaves and they built their schools. They paid the priests in their churches. OK, so they said that it's shameful of their history. They've been doing that, but they said they have to make things right. They said racism will endure in America if we don't continue to turn our heads away from the truth and the past and how it affects us today. They say the lasting effects of slavery, say, call each of us to do the work of truth and reconciliation. Let me tell you something. When they talk about truth and reconciliation, that is dumb. That is a farce. There's no truth and reconciliation at all. We don't want to be reconciled to nothing. What do we need to reconcile? We're the freaking victims. What do we need to reconcile? What? It doesn't make sense. They say with this joining of hearts and hands in true unity, that's what they're saying, the cycle of hatred and inequality in America will never end. Well, it will never end because y'all keep it up. Y'all keep it up. If you're serious about it, you can actually put some laws on the books that criminalizes racism, that criminalizes white supremacy, that do not allow it to continue. But you won't do it. That's why it goes on. Now, they said in 1838, Jesuit owners who ran Georgetown University sold 272 men, women, and children to a Louisiana plantation owner. They used the profits to pay off debt and save the private Washington, D.C. University, from financial collapse. They say the Georgetown Memorial Project, they say researchers to find out who was sold as part of the school's 1838 episode of slave trafficking. They said that the nonprofit identified 5,000 descendants of laborers enslaved by the Jesuits. Okay. Now, I was told the people that they were speaking to was only 7 people, that the overall community had nothing to do with this negotiation. And a lot of them are upset. They feel all this is a finesse. And as we read this, you're going to see why it's a finesse. Now, the pledge to say if fulfilled would represent the Catholic Church's most substantial contribution toward racial healing and one of the largest efforts of reckoning with slavery by any institution. No, what you're trying to do is get out of the coming judgment. So you're trying to, in your mind, give a reparation to black folks to think that's going to have you escape when your hands is full of African blood. Now, they said the Jesuits already deposited $15 million into the fund and plan to contribute another $85 million over the next 3 to 5 years. They said that their goal is to raise $1 billion. Now, this is what they said. The plan is to use half the funds each year on grants for organizations dedicated to racial reconciliation efforts. If you give a reparation, you don't tell people how to spend it. That's white supremacy. I'm gonna give you the money, but you can spend it on what I tell you to spend it on. Your reparations now, but I'm gonna tell you what to spend it on. And say a quarter of the fund will go to scholarships and education grants for slave descendants, and some of the endowment will go toward medical needs for old and sick descendants. Once again, it's not a reparation. You can call that just a charity. That's not reparations. Just say you giving out a charity to black people. No problem. We'll take it, but you control charity, but that's not reparations. So stop calling that. Now, they say Descendants of Truth and Reconciliation Foundation has also set up a trust with J.P. Morgan and Chase. Now, from what I was told, these are 7 black folks. That's it, not the whole community. and you're going to set up something with JP Morgan and Chase. Do you know the history of JP Morgan and Chase? Now, I say the banking company will advise descendants on financial planning and render other services as part of a partnership. You couldn't go to One United Bank. That's the largest black-owned bank in America. I got an account there. You couldn't work with One United. You had to go to someone that financed slaves. So they said JP Morgan Chase, they say benefited from slavery as well, so according to the foundation. They say when the Jesuits at Georgetown University sold 272 enslaved Africans to plantation owners in 1838, Citizens Bank of New Orleans used the enslaved people as human collateral. JP Morgan Chase later acquired the bank. That's why I told y'all, black people was considered property. So our ancestors was used as collateral. If, they didn't pay for their slaves they were supposed to, then the slaves would be repoed and put back up on the auction. This is the history of America, folks. So they were saying that also that it was a landmark decision, and they're proud, this group of 7 black people say they was proud of this, but let me tell you something. It's not reparations. Don't even consider this reparations. This is a charity by the Catholic Church to think that they're going to get out of the evil that they was a part of. Okay? You did 100 years of evil, and I think you need 100 years of judgment. Those that had our ancestors enslaved for 200 and almost 50 years, you need 250 years of judgment. You continued after that for another 100 years or so, with more white supremacy on the books. You need 100 years added to that of judgment. And what do we get in return? We need to be put in our rightful place with blessings upon blessings for hundreds and hundreds of years, because we suffered for hundreds and hundreds of years. And it's time for those who did it to us to go into the same position that we are in. Yes, I agree with that 100%. It's only right to go into the same position that you did black folk. And black folk go to a rightful position they was in prior to even coming into contact with them. And it's going to happen. It's going to happen much sooner than later. I'm going to tell you that much sooner than later. This is why I tell black folk, you better get your act together. Because what you going to do when now you're going to have to do things on your own. But leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about, this particular story. Like I said, that's a charity. It's not reparations. Don't call it that. Don't even accept it as that. The community wasn't involved. Any black person talking about truth and reconciliation, then just look at them like they stupid. Say, what you talking about? We ain't got to reconcile with nobody. They need to reconcile reparations over here. There's nothing to reconcile. We didn't do crap.